costume on. See it? See you putting a costume. You want to go put his costume on?
Yeah.
You want to do it too?
Yeah.
See, look, he's putting it on.
I want to.
You want that one?
Yeah.
No.
All right, folks, let's see. Oh, good. We have just enough volunteers. I could use a few more goblins, though. Anybody out there feeling like they want to pretend to be wicked?
You want to go?
Yeah.
You
That's
go.
all that sometimes moms and dads, maybe older brothers and sisters, are very good at pretending to be wicked.
You want to go?
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
what I hear tell.
You want to go?
Yeah.
All set? Set.
I really wanted him to be in the show so I could see how many Archer quotes I could work into the show. So we'll see how it goes. I'll see how it goes. All right, folks, we're just about ready to begin. Now, before I get started, I want to introduce a character that I forgot to introduce earlier. I'll give you a hint as to who they are. They came to the park today already dressed up in their costumes. Do you have any idea what I could be talking about? Do you know? The Queen? Who's the Queen? I haven't met the Queen. Is she around here somewhere? You have to introduce me. But no, actually, I was talking about the audience, you folks out here. You don't have to dress up in my silly costumes, but you can stay dressed up in your silly costumes while being the audience, making sure you clap and cheer and yell and scream for all these actors and actresses. Because this could be the beginning of a brand new career. You never know. You need your encouragement. So on my count of three, and a nice loud round of applause for all of our brave volunteers. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Hey.
That's pretty good, audience. That's pretty good. Keep that enthusiasm up throughout our entire show. Now we're going to start right about now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our story is called The Free Folk of Middle-earth. The first scene does not have our knights in Gondor, but these are the knights over here in Gondor. Give them a round of applause. They're very strong, courageous, and brave. We'll see them in a little bit later. The first scene does not have our elven princesses in Rivendell, but there they are right over there. Give them a round of applause as well. And our show does not start with our wicked characters, the goblins over in Mordor, but folks, we don't necessarily want to give them a cheer because they are the bad guys. But maybe give a little bit of a boo for those goblins over there. Can we hear a boo for the goblins? Boo. Don't worry, goblins. Getting a boo means you're doing a good job of being wicked, so keep up the bad work. But we don't want to start our show with a boo. We want to start our show with a cheer. So one more round of applause real quick for everybody up here.
Yeah.
We're going to start our story in the very first scene with our woodland animals coming out here to the center of our carpet animals. And in our show today, we have a lion, a tortoise, a wolf, and a butterfly. And as I said before, the animals' favorite thing to do in the whole world is to dig for treasure. And that's exactly what they were doing in the very first scene of our show. So there the animals were, atop the lonely mountain, digging for treasure. And folks, they're usually very good at finding treasure, but on this particular day, they haven't found anything. And it was almost 3 o'clock. It was well past lunchtime. They were getting tired and hungry. First, it was the butterfly who stood up, actually. The butterfly stood up and he stomped his tiny little right foot. He said, you know, we've been at this since this morning and I'm getting very tired. Can't we just go home and have some lunch? But then it was the wolf who got up next. The wolf stood up just 1 second and said, everyone, I know you're getting tired, but why don't we try for 1 more hour? If we don't find anything, I'll make us all big, gigantic sandwiches for lunch. Does that sound good? Everyone nodded their heads. And they said, all right. Let's try for one more hour. And back in the dirt they went, and they dug even harder this time. They dug for 30 minutes. They dug for 45 minutes. They dug for 59 minutes and 59 seconds. They were just about to quit when all of a sudden they took one great big swipe at the earth. There before them was the greatest amount of treasure they'd ever seen. They were so excited, they started gathering up all those diamonds, emeralds, and rubies into that treasure bag that the turtle had there. And they all started filling up that bag to the tippy top until it took all their strength to lift it up again. They hoisted up that treasure bag as hard as they could. And it was that littlest animal there, the butterfly, who had a big idea. He said, you know, this is more treasure than we can spend in 3 lifetimes. We should share it with our friends in Middle-earth. Let's take it to Gondor and to the knights for safekeeping. And it was the lion there who said, you know, I found a shortcut to Gondor just the other day. Follow me. They began to take the lion's shortcut through the forest to Gondor. Now, it started to get dark out, and so they kind of lost their way and got shortcut to a very long cut. And all of a sudden, all those animals found themselves stuck in a swamp surrounded by frogs. But these weren't any kinds of normal frogs. These were the kind of frogs that if they bit you, you would turn purple forever. Now, I've seen a purple butterfly before, but a purple lion? Never seen that before. So first they were tiptoeing through the swamp so as not to step on those frogs, and then they were basically hopping over the frogs. They were doing great big hops over those families of frogs. And after all this hopping and all this digging they'd done that day, they were getting quite tired. And everyone began to yawn and stretch. And the turtle there found a clearing right there in the center of the swamp, and she said, everyone, let's all gather together, let's all rest up, and we'll continue our journey come sunrise. And so they laid right down, and they all fell fast asleep. Now, it's a good idea to rest up on a journey like this, but the worst thing that could have happened did happen. For you see, 2 of the most vicious goblins you've ever seen were skulking around that very same forest that very same night. And they were looking around, looking for trouble, as goblins often do. They took a few more steps forward, and they stopped right about there. They put their noses high in the air, and they sniffed. And together they both said, "We smell treasure!" Let's hear it. Very good. And they began to tiptoe over to those animals. They snuck and they sneaked. They crept in, they creeped, and they were just about there when those 2 goblins stepped on some twigs and they snapped. And that woke up the animals. The animals got up to their feet. They saw those goblins and they shrieked. They dropped the treasure bag. They dropped the treasure bag. They were so confused. They ran into the forest to get away from those goblins. And the goblins didn't want the animals. They wanted the treasure. So they gathered up that treasure bag, and both of them, yes, they gave themselves a high five. And then they let out a wicked laugh. Very, very wicked indeed. And then they did the silliest goblin dance all the way back to their caves in Mordor. Let's see a silly dance there, goblins. Oh, very wicked indeed. Let's give those goblins a boo for stealing that treasure, though. They always want to clap for the dancing, and then they remember that you stole the treasure. Don't worry. You're doing great. Now, the animals were still running through the forest to get away from those goblins, and they ran to the east. They ran to the west. They ran to the north. They ran to the south. They were spinning in circles until they realized that the goblins were gone, but so was the treasure. So they hung their heads. They didn't know what to do. They spun in circles and almost hurt each other. Then the butterfly had another big idea. He began to flap his wings as hard as he could. He began to flap until he got above the canopies and over the high trees, and he saw that there were 3 knights just on their way on patrol. And there were 3 knights that were walking through the forest. Knights, that's you, come on out. And the knights were walking through the forest on patrol, and they spotted the animals. And they rushed over to the animals, and they bowed to the animals. There, can we see a bow there, knights? A little bit of a bow? Maybe not, we'll work on it later. So, the animals said, Knights, we need your help. We had treasure stolen by goblins. The knights were so angry when they heard the word goblins that they clenched their fists and they roared with anger. Can we hear a roar, knights? Oh, very good. They're quite angry, as you can tell. Now, this roaring's not getting anything done, the tallest knight said. And she said, you know, what we can do is we can get that treasure back for you, but we need some good magic to enter Mordor. I know exactly where to get some. Follow us. And they began to follow the knights through the forest. They took the short journey to Rivendell. And once they arrived at the Crystal Palace in Rivendell, they knocked on those gates 3 times. And out stepped 4 very, very lovely elven princesses who floated down from their castle as though on a cloud.